CHAPTER 9. It is necessary, however, that diction should either be diffuse, and won by a bond, as the dilatations in dithyrambics, or that it should be periodic, and similar to the antistrophes of the ancient poets. Diffuse diction therefore is ancient, as in the work of Herodotus the Thurian, the beginning of which is, This is the exposition of history, &c. For this formerly all writers used, but at present it is not used by many. But I call the diction diffuse, which has of itself no end, till the thing which is discussed be brought to a conclusion. This diction is, however, unpleasant, on account of the infinite ; for all men wish to see the end of a thing. Hence racers in the turnings round the goal are out of breath, and faint. But prior to this, when they have a prospect of the goal, their labour is not so extreme. Such therefore is diffuse diction. But periodic diction is that which consists of periods. I call, however, a period diction which has of itself a beginning and end, and a magnitude which may easily be perceived. But diction of this kind is pleasing, and easily learnt. It is pleasing, indeed, because it subsists in a way contrary to that which is boundless, and because the hearer always fancies he obtains something, because there is always something for him which is bounded. But it is unpleasant where nothing is foreseen, and nothing effected. It is also easily learnt, because it may easily be remembered. But it may easily be remembered, because this diction has number in the periods. Hence all men remember verse more easily than prose, for it has number by which it is measured. It is necessary, however, that a period should contain a complete, and not a mutilated and abrupt meaning, as in the iambics of Sophocles, Calydon, the land where Pelops reigned. For the contrary might be thought to be true, by a division of the period, as in the above instance it would seem that Calydon is in the Peloponnesus. With respect to periods, however, one is in the colons, or members, but the other is simple. But the period which is in the colons is a perfect and distinct diction, and in which what is pronounced admits of easy respiration, and does not consist in a division, like the above mentioned period of Sophocles, but is a whole and entire. But I call the period simple, which consists of one colon. It is necessary, however, that the colons and the periods should neither be curtailed, nor prolix. For when the periods are very short, they cause the hearer to stumble frequently. For the mind of the hearer being impelled farther to the end, which he had proposed to himself, stumbles as it were, when the orator stops short. But prolix periods cause the auditors to be left by the orator, just as those who in walking pass beyond the boundaries of their walk, for they leave their companions behind. In a similar manner, periods which are long become themselves an oration, and resemble diffuse diction. Whence that jest of Democritus the Chian upon Melanippides, who dilated in his writings instead of making antistrophes. This man frames evil for himself, in framing evil for another, but to dilate much is the worst of evils to him who does it. For a thing of this kind may be aptly said to those who use long colons. Very short colons, however, do not become periods. These, therefore, hurry away the auditor with them precipitately. But of periodic diction, which consists of many colons or members, one kind is distinct, and the other opposite. And the distinct, indeed, is such as the beginning of the panegyric of Isocrates. I have often admired those who collected public assemblies, and instituted the gymnastic contests. But the opposite is that which consists of many colons, and in which either the same thing is composed with contraries, or contraries are composed with contraries, as in the panegyric of Isocrates. The Athenians benefited both those that remained at home and those that followed ; for they acquired more for those that followed them, than they possessed at home, and they left sufficient for the support of those that stayed behind." Here the contraries are staying and following, sufficient and more. And again, in the same oration, So that to those who were in want of money, and to those who were willing to enjoy it, &c. Here enjoyment is opposed to acquisition. Farther still, It frequently happens in these things that prudent men are unfortunate, and the imprudent are prosperous." And Immediately, indeed, they obtained the rewards of brave men, and not long after they became masters of the sea." Another example is, He sailed indeed through the continent, but walked through the sea. He joined the Hellespont, but dug through Mount Athos." And, Being citizens by nature, but by law deprived of a city ; for some of them, indeed, perished miserably, but others were shamefully preserved." And, Privately, indeed, they used barbarian servants, but publicly overlooked many of their allies that were in slavery." And, To have them when living, or leave them when dead." Or what a certain person said against Pithellaus and Lycophron in a court of justice ;" They sold you, indeed, when they were at home, but when they came to us they were themselves bought." For all these instances make the above mentioned periodic opposite diction. Diction, however, of this kind is pleasing, because contraries are most known, and when placed by each other are more known, and also because they resemble a syllogism. For an elenchus, or syllogism of contradiction, is a collection of opposites. A thing therefore of this kind is antithesis. But adequation takes place when the colons or members are equal ; as, The father died in battle, the son was married at home." And assimilation is, when both the colons have similar extremes. But it is necessary that they should have similar extremes, either in the beginning or the end. And the beginning indeed has always similar nouns, but the end has the last syllables similar, or cases of the same noun, or the same noun. In the beginning, indeed, the similar extremes are such as in the following instances ;" He received land from him, but it was uncultivated land." And " Appeased with gifts, and mollified with words." But the similar extremes in the end are, " They did not think that he had brought forth a boy, but that he was the cause of his birth." In great cares, and in little hopes." Cases of the same noun are such as, " But he deserves to have a brazen statue, though he is not worthy of brass, [i. e. of a brazen coin.] And an instance of the repetition of the same noun is, " You while he was living defamed him, and now he is dead right ill of him." But an instance when there is a similitude alone in the last syllable is, " What evil have you suffered, if you have seen an indolent man ?" A period also may have all these at once, so as not only to consist of opposite, but also of equal, and similarly ending colons. The beginnings, however, of periods are nearly all of them enumerated in our Theodectean Rhetoric. There are likewise false oppositions, such as Epicharmus made, Then I was one of them, then I was with them."